Hello and welcome to your Newsmax Daily for Tuesday, March 5th, 2024. A huge day in politics known as Super Tuesday, with voters in 16 states and 1 U.S. territory going to the polls today, with more than a third of all delegates available for the Republican and Democratic presidential primaries up for grabs. There are also some states with key congressional races at play as well. California and Texas topping the list, Alabama, Arkansas, North Carolina, and now Colorado, some of the other key states voting today as well. Donald Trump picked up one more win and all 29 delegates last night in North Dakota's caucus with 84% of the vote. Haley got 14% there with two other candidates on the printed ballot as well. In North Dakota, if a person gets more than 60% of the primary vote, as Trump did, they win all 29 delegates. Otherwise, they get divvied up. Super Tuesday and Monday Supreme Court ruling to keep Trump's name on the ballot in Colorado, which automatically disqualifies other states from trying to do the same, is what's dominating the news, of course. There is also that 60-minute story about former Border Patrol Chief Raul Ortiz, who said President Biden and Vice President Harris, the border czar, who I keep saying is the one that has to be held responsible, never even had one conversation with him. I mean, this is insane. And there's other Biden administration immigration news today as well. But first, the Supreme Court ruling on the Colorado ballot issue.
9-0. Trump is back on the ballot, baby, everywhere. The Supreme Court of Colorado, the Secretary of State of Maine, the weird, obscure traffic judge in Illinois who tried this. They were all wrong. They all got stomped today. Liberals way overplayed their hand, way overstepped their authority, and perverted the legal system to suit their political leanings. And they were just unanimously smacked down by the Supreme Court. It was awesome. This is day one of Trump winning the general election, and the left is just absolutely freaking out over this. Specifically, the Colorado Secretary of State. Listen to this angry woman.
My larger reaction is disappointment. I do believe that states should be able, under our Constitution, to bar oath-breaking insurrectionists.
Right. Let's just break that down for a second. I mean, disappointment. Shocker from a Democrat. I know this is really weird, but she believes that states should have the right to kick people off the ballot. But this is the problem. First, Trump has never been convicted. He's never even been charged with an insurrection. But in this case, the Supreme Court, keyword there, supreme, like the top, it can't go any higher. 9-0 decision. It wasn't like split down party lines. This was unanimous. They said states don't have that right. To get the Supreme Court to agree on anything is remarkable, by the way, in this day and age.
That's Carl Higbie, host of Frontline on Newsmax, and we'll get to the legal explanations in a moment. But first, Donald Trump's official response to the ruling.
Worked long, they worked hard, and frankly, they worked very quickly on something that will be spoken about 100 years from now and 200 years from now. Extremely important. Essentially, you cannot take somebody out of a race because an opponent would like to have it that way. And it has nothing to do with the fact that it's the leading candidate, whether it was the leading candidate or a candidate that was well down on the totem pole. You cannot take somebody out of a race. The voters can take the person out of the race very quickly, but a court shouldn't be doing that, and the Supreme Court saw that very well. And I really do believe that will be a unifying factor, because while most states were thrilled to have me, there were some that didn't, and they didn't want that for political reasons. They didn't want that because of poll numbers, because the poll numbers are very good. We're beating President Biden in almost every poll. New York Times came out yesterday with a very big poll for us. So they didn't like that, and you can't do that. You can't do what they tried to do. And hopefully Colorado, as an example, will unify. I know there's tremendous support. They brought our support up very strong in Colorado, because people in Colorado thought that was a terrible thing that they did. And while we're on the subject, and another thing that will be coming up very soon will be immunity for a president, and not immunity for me, but for any president. If a president doesn't have full immunity, you really don't have a president, because nobody that is serving in that office will have the courage to make, in many cases, what would be the right decision, or it could be the wrong decision. It could be, in some cases, the wrong decision, but they have to make decisions, and they have to make them free of all terror that can be rained upon them when they leave office or even before they leave office.
The former president addressed the media for about 16 minutes from his home in Palm Beach, and in closing,
I think it's a very big day for America. I think it's a very big day for liberty, and I think it's just a great day for this country. Again, I hope it's unifying like I think, but it's a big step toward unification. I hope that the justices, because they'll be working on some other cases, but one in particular, presidents have to be given total immunity. They have to be allowed to do their job. If they're not allowed to do their job, it's not what the founders wanted, but perhaps even more importantly, it will be terrible for our country. Thank you all very much. I appreciate it. Thank you.
all right, so that was Trump's response to the media after the Supreme Court ruling on Monday. We had it live on Newsmax 2. We're going to hear more from the former president on some other issues in a few minutes as well. But first, the legal perspective on the SCOTUS ruling with Harvard law professor, attorney Alan Dershowitz, and David Aronberg, the state attorney for Palm Beach County, Florida, on National Report.
Dave, we haven't heard from you yet, so welcome to National Report. I wanted to get your top-line thoughts on this unanimous SCOTUS ruling. Donald Trump will be on the primary ballot in Colorado.
Well, it's good to be with you in the panel, especially my former professor, Alan Dershowitz. I was not surprised by this. I mean, I thought that the Supreme Court would find a way out of this, not dealing with the issue of insurrection. They wanted to avoid that hot potato, even though, by the way, Trump wanted them to declare that he was not an insurrectionist. They refused to go that far, but they did say, as I expected, that Section 5 here of the 14th Amendment punts to Congress, means that Congress must get involved and enact legislation if you want to throw people off the ballot for purposes of Section 3 of the 14th Amendment. States don't have that authority to do it themselves. It's up to Congress. And as Professor Dershowitz, I think, correctly said, Congress is going to sit on its hands. They will do nothing. So this matter is over.
Let's bring in your former professor, Alan Dershowitz, again, responding to what David said there, too. But also Amy Coney Barrett, Supreme Court Justice, put out a statement. But just a quick snippet of it. She writes, the court has settled a politically charged issue in the volatile season of a presidential election. And it goes on. Just how volatile is it, Professor?
Well, first of all, thank you to my former student, my A-plus student, who gave an A-plus answer, as we would expect, and has been an A-plus state attorney in Palm Beach County. So I'm so proud of what you've done for the people of Florida and for the people of the United States. She was right to say that. It's important to emphasize that there has been unanimity of the result. Now, if you read the concurring opinion, it basically says, look, we haven't resolved all of these issues, and we shouldn't resolve all of these issues. The issue before us was a simple one, and we resolved it unanimously. The court need not have gone further and say it's only Congress that can implement Section 3 of the 14th Amendment. Perhaps there are other mechanisms for doing that, by which I suspect they may mean if there was a conviction for insurrection, an actual conviction, maybe that would be enough. But the concurrences just didn't want to go further than had to be done. The three justices said the same thing in the Dobbs case. They thought the Supreme Court had gone too far in overruling Roe versus Wade. So this is judicial restraint versus the argument about judicial overreach. But the key is that last paragraph in Justice Barrett's decision. The American public has to take home from this a unanimous view that they get to decide who the president is. As I like to say, I have the right to vote against Donald Trump for the third time, and no Secretary of State in Colorado should take that away.
Constitutional law professor, veteran attorney, and never Trumper Alan Dershowitz. And let's go back to Carl Higbie for a moment, who says Democrats are already trying to come up with a new way to disqualify Trump.
Congress should immediately hold a vote to disqualify anyone from office who tried to take Trump off the ballot. Two can play at this game. Oh, Carl, that won't hold up. Who cares? Do it anyway. That's how it goes, right? Do whatever you want to your political opponents. I mean, that's what the left is doing. Jamie Raskin is already trying this with his pal Eric Swalwell, who may have slept with a Chinese spy.
I am working with a number of my colleagues, including Debbie Wasserman Schultz and Eric Swalwell, to revive legislation that we had to set up a process by which we could determine that someone who committed insurrection is disqualified by Section 3 of the 14th Amendment. And the House of Representatives already impeached Donald Trump for participating in insurrection by inciting it. So the House has already pronounced upon that.
Whatever, dude. He was not convicted in the Senate. That means he was exonerated, as in not guilty. So Jamie Raskin wants to set up some new process. He's like having a meeting about a meeting to have another committee. It sounds like an HOA. This is ridiculous. The 14th Amendment has been in place since 1868. The process is pretty clear. One, they have to actually be convicted of insurrection. They did not do that here. And two, they already have a process, and we don't need another committee inventing one that is politically more expeditious to do whatever rogue stuff the Democrats want to do. You lost, Jamie. You lost Colorado. You lost Illinois. You got stomped, Maine. And you're probably going to lose this immunity case too, Democrats. And I say this all the time. Republicans, I'm looking at you, Mike Johnson, start playing by the same rules. The Supreme Court just unanimously gave you a green light to disqualify people under the insurrection clause. Go after the people who actually just tried to overthrow democracy. And if you're not willing to do that, take me off your fundraising emails. Take me off your campaign donation notifications. Take me off all that stuff. I am done. I'm not giving Republicans another penny until they start hitting back. Call your reps, tell them how you feel, because if we don't get these lowlifes out of power, they're going to pull another stunt, and mark my words, they're going to do it. And who knows how far they're going to go next time.
Carl Higbie is the host of Frontline on Newsmax, 5 o'clock Eastern, right after the Chris Salcedo Show, which featured an interview with former President Trump.
You know, Americans see a rigged justice system out there because of the corrupt individuals who are running it. Greatest example I can see is what Hillary did, what Joe Biden did, illegally possessing and handling of classified information. If you're elected, President Trump, will you order a national security damage assessment and then release the unclassified details to the public of what you find?
Well, we're going to have to do a lot of this because we do have a two-tier system, and it's worse than two-tier. It's a super tier and it's a non-tier. It's a disgraceful thing that happened. You just take a look at the documents where Biden gets totally released. He has 10 times or 20 times the number that I have. I come under the Presidential Records Act. I have every right to do it. And I go through this. I mean, think of it. And my boxes were secure. His boxes were all over the place. There had many locations, many in Chinatown. And they were used boxes. When you look at those boxes, those papers were ripped in and out. It was ridiculous. And you look at the two-tier system of justice, it's really sick. And the people get it. The people of our country are getting it. And you know, when they're looking at this country, how badly it's being run, and they're looking at millions of, I know where you're based, and millions of people pouring into our country illegally, and we had the strongest border we've ever had in history. We had no problem with the border. In fact, when I took over in 2016, we had a problem with the border, pretty big problem. But it was nothing compared to what it is now. And I fixed the problem, and it wasn't even a topic of discussion in the race, in the 2020 race. I kept wanting to talk about it. I wanted to brag about the great job we did, right? But everyone said nobody cares because you fixed it. But now you look at this, and this is 100 times worse. Nobody can imagine what's happening. I think 15 million people have come into our country already, and they are rough people. They're from jails. They're from mental institutions. They're the roughest, toughest people. And now you see the crime, and you look at Lakin, and you look at, you know, the what they did to the beautiful young girl nursing student in Georgia, and, you know, unrecognizable, beat so badly. And you look at all of the things that are happening in our country, and it's absolutely hard to believe that our country is at this position. I think we're at the lowest level we've ever been.
It's true.
In terms of spirit, and certainly in terms of migrant crime is going to be a whole new category of crime that I think it might end up being bigger than regular bad crime. And regular bad crime we were not doing particularly well in. But this is a whole new level of crime that's happening, where they have fistfights with police officers in the middle of the street. That's how little. I mean, they were having fistfights in New York City in the middle of the street.
I know.
With police officers. I've never seen anything like that.
Sir, I got to be honest with you. It's amazing. And those people that beat up the cops, in typical Democrat fashion, they were let go. So, again, I think that all the damage that's being done to the United States, the American people ought to know just how much damage Hillary and Joe did to this country. About the 10 to 12 million illegal aliens that the Democrats have allowed in, there's another aspect, aside to all the crime they're unleashing on our people. The Democrats are using the illegal aliens to give them the vote in certain municipalities, and they're also using them to pad the census. Given the fact that no foreign national has a right to be here in the United States, will you order mass deportations if you win the White House?
Oh, day one, we have no choice, and we'll start with the bad ones. And you know who knows who they are? Local police. Local police have to be given back their authority, and they have to be given back their respect and immunity. We're going to give them immunity. And they know them by the first name, the middle name, and the last name. And they will take them out, and we will get them out. And look, this is not sustainable by any country. Even if they weren't as bad as they are, this is not sustainable by any country. We probably have, I think I heard your numbers, I think you probably have 15 million in, actually, which is more than your numbers. And I think that number could reach 20 million people by the time this guy gets out.
Wow.
We have to get him out. If we don't get him out, I don't think we're going to have a country left.
I think you're right, sir. I think you're absolutely correct. By the way, folks, we're speaking with President Donald J. Trump on the Chris Salcedo Show. Sir, the government has grown beyond the consent of the governed. I don't need to tell you that. It's Congress's fault. Their laziness has resulted in massive debt, runaway inflation, foreign adventurism, which you avoided during your first term, and a government that targets our people rather than protects our people. Can you pledge to the American people you're going to veto spending bills that don't come in the form of those 12 appropriation bills and don't begin to reduce the size and scope of the federal establishment?
Oh, absolutely. And that's so easy. And a lot of the nonsense that they're signing is the Green New Scam. So much of it is the Green New Scam, which doing things that are just taking money and throwing it out the window. There is so much fat cutting. Nobody's ever seen anything like this. But, the Green New Deal, they call it the Green New Deal. It's a scam. It's a giant scam. And it has nothing to do with, absolutely nothing to do with good. It has nothing to do with helping to make our country great. And it's going to end very quickly, very, very quickly. There is so much cost cutting to do. And just numbers that you wouldn't believe, like people like Haley and all these people, they want to go after Social Security. That's not happening. Haley, first we have to, dispose of that one. And she's just terrible. I think she's terrible. She's terrible at what she does.
She won the swamp. The folks in D.C., they love themselves some Nikki Haley because she's one of these big spending Republicans that I know you know very well, sir.
Former President Donald Trump speaking with Chris Salcedo, host of the Chris Salcedo Show on Newsmax. So today, Super Tuesday, could be the end of the road for the Haley campaign. President Biden could secure the Democratic nomination today, or at least get very close, with only long shot challenges from Minnesota Rep. Dean Phillips and activist Marianne Williamson, who dropped out of the race and then unsuspended her campaign last week after beating Phillips in the Michigan primary. And for those two, the results of the Iowa Democratic mail-in caucus held in January will also be announced today. And you'll be hearing a lot about California, not only because it has the most delegates, but also because a Republican running for the Senate seat of the late Dianne Feinstein is giving Adam Shifty Schiff and other Democrats a run for their money. Former Major League Baseball star Steve Garvey spoke with our Charla McBride on Wake Up America.
Senate candidate and 10-time MLB All-Star, Steve Garvey. Steve, thanks so much for waking up early for us this morning.
Always for you. Thank you.
Well, Steve, the last time California elected a Republican to the U.S. Senate, as you know, was 1988. But just this weekend, a poll from UC Berkeley has you beating Adam Schiff 27% to 25%. They're calling it a statistical tie for first. What is the secret to your recent rise in the polls?
Well, I think that's liberal math. It's clearly 2 points, and it's 6 points in the short-term election. We're so excited because about 9 months ago, I was approached, actually by both sides of the aisle, would I consider running? And I said, gosh, I'm still young and vibrant, but I have this wonderful life. And the more I started thinking about it, I thought to myself, there are no voices in California. No recognizable voices. It's a one-party state. The people are suppressed. I'm a Californian for 50 years now. September 1st of 1969, I came to California. The Dodgers called 5 of us up, and I put on a Dodger uniform for the first time. And my dream came true. I got to the starting line. I had a wonderful 20-year career, but I fell in love with California, fell in love with the state and its people. Back when California was the heartbeat of America. I mean, you came here to start a family, for great schools. You had your dreams. And you know what? It's become a murmur. A one-party state has suppressed the will and the fight of the people. It's almost a malaise. And I started walking the state, talking to people from way up north down to the border of San Diego, asking them about their life. And it wasn't the same as it was as late as 3 years ago. 88% of the people wake up in the morning and either break even for that day and month or lose money. And that can't happen in America, and it shouldn't happen in California.
Yeah, so Schiff is spending millions on attack ads against you, making the most expensive California race in history. He's framing it as a two-person race, but you don't need any help when it comes to name recognition. As you just mentioned, you played 20 years of baseball for the Padres and the Dodgers. Everyone in the state of California, I think, knows who you are. Do you think his negative ads are having an adverse effect?
Well, we haven't spent a dime, so I think he's doing a good job of creating my awareness, so to speak. There was a Steve Garvey that everybody knew that took the field every night with 30 or 40,000 people, who developed a currency with the fans and the people for hard work and dedication and commitment. And I took it off the field to build businesses, help develop cures for diseases and so forth. So the people know me, they trust me, they know I care about them. Candace has said, my wonderful wife, she said, you never took the field for Democrats or Republicans or independents or libertarians. You took the field for all the fans, and you're going to run for all the people, and I am. I'm the only candidate in this race that's running for all the people. My opponents vote 98, 97% down party line. They're running for a job. I'm running for the people.
That's former MLB star and California Senate candidate Steve Garvey on Newsmax. President Biden, meanwhile, left Camp David and is back at the White House, where he'll be speaking with his competition counsel about cutting fees. I think those junk fees for Americans. I believe that's what the conversation is. I purchased tickets to a hockey game yesterday, and I paid a ridiculous amount of fees, so I'm all for this, as I imagine most Americans are. But so far, it has been a whole lot of talk and not that much action, because aside from the ticket fees, late payments on credit cards and things like that keep going up as well. Overseas, the ceasefire talks led by the United States and Egypt have come to an end without an agreement. Israel didn't even participate in the discussion, as I mentioned yesterday, because they want a list of hostages that are still alive first, a list from Hamas of the hostages that are still alive. Egypt, the United States, and Qatar brokering the talks were hoping to get a ceasefire agreement and get hostages released, or some of the hostages released, before the Muslim holiday of Ramadan, which begins in 5 days. So it's another super busy news day, especially with Super Tuesday. Keep up with it all on Newsmax, available on most major cable systems: AT&T, Comcast, Cox, Dish, DirecTV, Spectrum, Suddenlink, and many others. And make sure you're signed up for Newsmax Plus. Go to newsmaxplus.com. You can get a free trial. It includes all of your favorite shows and hosts, as well as analysis from people like Governor Mike Huckabee, KT McFarland, Garland, Carrie Lake, Alan Dershowitz, Judge Napolitano. There's documentaries, special programs, and much more. NewsmaxPlus.com. Thank you, as always, for listening to the Newsmax Daily. I'm Tony Marino. Enjoy the rest of the day and keep on fighting the good fight.
News breaks every minute, every day. You need the app, the Newsmax app. Find it free on your smartphone store. Then watch us anytime, anywhere.
Kelly over at Newsmax, the Newsmax people have been really, really terrific. Newsmax has been terrific.
President Trump is right. Millions are tired of Fox, and they're switching to Newsmax Plus. It's the fastest growing streaming service in America. You don't need woke Disney and Hulu anymore. Just get Newsmax Plus. Watch the best shows like Greg Kelly, Rob Schmidt, Greta Van Susteren, and Eric Bolling. And get incredible analysis from Dick Morris, Alan Dershowitz, Carrie Lake, Mike Huckabee, and more. It's free to start. So go to NewsmaxPlus.com now to sign up and watch Newsmax anytime, anywhere.